Welcome back. Debbie Dwyer, Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices, PenFed Realty, the Roland Park office, Michael Frank, team lead, Frank Oliver and company. Our next section that we're going to discuss are inclusions and exclusions. What is it that you're going to put into the contract of sale that you saw when you were viewing the property?
Or you're including as a seller.
You're including as a seller. This is the section where you check off washer, dryer, refrigerator, stove, and then the seller will deliver those if the seller agrees in working condition. There's an entire list. You want to be diligent about making sure that you hit everything on the list that the buyer saw and wants functioning.
The other thing that's really important, as a seller, it's important to understand the difference between a stove and a range. And so the buyer might submit an offer that says range, but there might not be a range. It might only just be a stove, which has a range combo. But there's not two separate appliances. And so that can create a problem too. It usually doesn't, but the one that I love is the blinds or the screens. Or the wall mount TV brackets. The bracket goes with the house, the TV doesn't, right? Like, it could be very, very confusing. And what I love about this section is the additional inclusions and the additional exclusions. We just sold a house recently where the seller had fallen trees on the property and he wanted to take them with him. And I thought, well, that's really weird, but he wrote it into the contract.
All right.
Should that really be transferred with ownership? It was confusing, but the seller was clear that he was taking them with him and the buyers acknowledged. Okay. Or my absolute favorite story, shout out to Michael Davis, bought a house. The sellers were absolutely clear that they wanted to take this peacock window. Stained glass peacock window, almost 3 feet by 3 feet, beautiful handcrafted window. And it's built into the house. It's not hanging on the wall, it's built into the house. So the sellers were very clear that they wanted to take it with them. And I was very clear as the buyer's agent that I did not include it in the contract. Deliberately, because the buyer wanted it. I don't have any opposition to including it in the inclusions and the seller now agreeing, but because it was built in, I didn't have an obligation to include it because it's a fixture.
Right.
So then, the week before settlement, this fixture became a $2,000 argument, which then became a $2,700 argument, which then became the buyer would not settle on the home if the seller proceeded to take the window out.
Moral of that story is, the seller should have put it in the exclusions when they were negotiating the contract. Exactly. They should have written it in there again. There is a space for that. The seller and the seller's agent should have made it really specific in the actual contract, not so much on the MLS.
That was what happened. They put it on the MLS. They submitted it to me. They actually submitted a counteroffer with it written into their counteroffer, and when we counteroffered them again, we didn't have it written in our offer. They acknowledged and signed a copy that didn't have it, and the seller's agent was arguing like I knew. Well, yes, of course I knew, but I talk all the time about hiring an agent that you trust, finding somebody that's going to do those things for you. That was a client for life.
If you are the seller and there's something near and dear to your heart, take it out. Replace it.
Exactly.
And you'll never have this issue.
I've had sellers that had a $750 dining room light fixture in a $250,000 house, which of course that's very unique, and they wanted to take it with them. And I said, replace it. They went to IKEA. They found a very similar $100 chandelier. And when I saw it, I went, huh, that looks very similar. Not nearly as nice, but very similar. Right. And the buyer loved that chandelier, the $100 version, not the $700 version. Yep. So take it out before you even list the home. You won't have these issues where, is it a fixture? Is it included? Is it not? But this section of the contract is one of the most important pieces so that you don't get screwed with a bill or an expectation or losing a personal piece that you wanted, whether it's a Viking range or, the beautiful peacock window. This is really important. Obviously, going to bring a lot more content to you guys. Any questions, reach out. We'll talk to you real soon.